Hi, I'm Helen and this is Danielle, who is an employment solicitor who specialises in pregnancy and maternity discrimination and family-friendly rights. We are thrilled that Dan is joining us on this project. Danielle, there was something that you just wanted to mention at the start about every situation being unique and if you've got any specific questions.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to provide, as Helena said, a real big overview in terms of the most commonly asked questions that we get through the various helplines and seminars that I do. But each situation is unique, especially when you're dealing with pregnancy, maternity. As we'll all know, none of them are the same. So whilst we can give you this overview, if you do have any issues with your employer, if you do feel like you're being discriminated against or being treated unfairly, I would say, and I'm going to say this because I'm an employment solicitor, but that you should go away and take some advice, whether that be from ACAS or from a legal expert, definitely.
Okay, and we'll signpost in the places you can get that advice at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully you're going to make things really simple for us because I know I get confused. So my background's in HR and so I know some of this stuff, but yet I still get really confused with it. Tell me a little bit about my rights in maternity leave. What are the kind of standard rights that I have?
So if you're an employee who's been with an employer for 26 weeks continuously, you have the right to 52 weeks off for maternity leave. People can pick and choose how long they take off within that 52 weeks. Some take 3 months, 6 months, others like to take the full 12 months and then tag annual leave onto the end as well. Whilst you're off on mat leave, you get 39 weeks statutory maternity pay. It may be more under your contracts of employment, so it's always worth checking to see whether or not you get contractual maternity pay.
So that would mean pay on above and beyond that?
Yeah, so for example in NHS organisations or with the local government, they tend to have more beneficial schemes, so 6 months full pay, 6 month half pay. Whereas if your employer only offers the statutory scheme, you get 6 weeks at 90% of your average weekly pay, and then you just get the standard maternity rate thereafter for the full 39-week period. Most people like to tell them as soon as possible because obviously now you have rights in terms of antenatal appointments, and obviously if your employer doesn't know that you're pregnant, they're not going to know that you need time off to attend scans, relaxation classes, etc. But the standard rule is that you tell them 15 weeks before your due date. Okay,
so that's like the legal requirement that I have to tell my employer.
Yeah, and again, like we said at the start, it's every situation's different. You know, the relationships that we all have with our bosses, our managers are different. So it's entirely personal, that sort of thing, when you tell them.
Okay. So there are some things that should be done around risk assessment. We know that 10% of those under 25 left their jobs because they felt like risks weren't being resolved and their well-being wasn't being looked after while they were pregnant. So has your employer got a duty of care?
Yeah, I mean, employers have duty of care to every employee, but obviously with pregnant employees, it's more stringent. They should carry out, as soon as you inform your employer that you're pregnant, they should carry out a risk assessment, whether or not they think there's going to be risks identified or not. And even if it's just a sit down chat with you to go through the basics. But if you sat at a desk, they should have a look, see whether the desk is at the right height so you're not getting backache. It becomes more important if you are working in factories or places where there's chemical substances which could put you and your unborn baby at risk. But if in any of those circumstances, if a risk is identified, then something should be done.
And what if you feel like it isn't? What if you kind of speak to your employer and you kind of think they haven't done much or you're kind of not happy with what they've done?
I always tend to say to people to raise things informally, but I think with something like that, it could be pretty serious. Yeah. So you either need to be going to your HR department and telling them and saying that you don't think the risk assessment has been sufficient, or risks were identified but then things haven't been put into place, which is it happens a lot. If you don't feel like you're getting anywhere and you're banging your head against a brick wall and no one's listening to you, then you need to be raising a grievance, even going to see your GP, getting yourself signed off work if you think that there is a real risk to you or, as I said, your unborn baby.
Okay. So am I entitled to time off for antenatal classes? I know one question that came up was that somebody said, my manager told me I should do these outside of work time because they were already being so generous with my maternity leave, and apparently 15% of mums under 25 felt like they were discouraged from attending antenatal classes. So what's the deal with those?
Yeah, that's absolutely ridiculous for a start, isn't it? You know, you have scans, you have appointments that you need to go to, you have to go to them, which is why now there are specific rules in place for mothers that say that you can attend those appointments. They should be paid appointments as well, and they say that you can attend up to between 7 and 10.
Okay.
And you should be able to take time off work. Obviously, it's always worth speaking to your employer to see when would work best. So, you know, working with each other, communicating with each other. Would it be best if I booked my antenatal appointments in the morning so that it didn't interrupt the day if it's bang in the middle of the day? So it is all about working together and making sure that they are at times that work for both parties, but the right's there, so to use it.